All right, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. My name is Liz Frediani. I'm the Assistant Director for Special Events, and I'm going to be moderating tonight's Q&A. Tonight we have with us softball head coach Chris Kohlmeyer and Director of Athletics Brian Barrio. Before I turn this over to Coach and Brian for introductions, I would just like to let everyone know that we're going to be going through a number of questions that were submitted prior to the start of this session. If you're with us live and you have additional questions, feel free to use the Q&A feature and we'll get to as many of those as we can. And with that, I will turn it over to Coach for a brief introduction.
All right, thanks, Liz. Hey, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I'm very excited to be joining you guys tonight with Mr. Barrio here and Liz, and we're looking forward to answering any questions you guys might have and sharing our future for UMBC softball and athletics and everything. So again, I'm Chris Kohlmeyer. I'm the head softball coach here. I'm starting my third season at UMBC, and I'm loving every minute of it and love continuing to grow this program. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our AD, Brian Barrio.
Brian, hold on, you're muted.
That mute button came back on and I didn't see it there. Sorry about that. I just want to let everybody know how happy we are to be able to do this. I know it's a little bit unorthodox and this isn't the way we usually like to get together with our alums, but it's great that you're joining us and we're really happy to be able to be here and share some of our thoughts about the softball program and whatever else is going on in the department with all of you. And I know I saw some of the questions. I know we got some great questions to get to, but first and foremost, just want to thank Chris for doing this and thank Liz for hosting. And just thank all of you for being here and for your support. So I don't know how many of you are from the more modern era of UMBC softball. I know we probably have some from the 90s, the early 90s and later. But Chris has done a tremendous job. Chris, this is going into your fourth year, right?
Third year.
Third year, I'm sorry. And has just brought tremendous success to the program. We've got our program currently is the defending champs in America East, and we got a little bit longer reign out of that than normal because of COVID last spring, but still the defending champs and a very promising program, and home to I think one of the I hate singling out student athletes, but I think home to one of the most exciting student athletes that we currently have in our department in Courtney Coppersmith, who I'm sure Chris can talk a little bit about. But if we do, I shouldn't say if, we're going to have a chance to have fans at games later this year, and I hope all of you get a chance to see her and see this team in action because they're pretty exciting and we're really happy to have Chris leading it.
Thanks, Brian. We'll dive right into the questions. As Brian said, we have a lot of really great questions tonight. We'll start off with the more COVID-focused questions. Everyone kind of wants to know what's going on. So
we can't get enough COVID.
Brian, can you?
Okay, well, I can wait for the day that we don't have to talk about COVID no more.
Brian, can you tell us what the conversations were like within the department, the conference, and the NCAA back in March when the decision was initially made to cancel spring sports?
Yeah, as you look back at that time, I think the two things that stick with me are, one, how quickly it went from everything's normal to we're completely shut down. It happened so fast, and two, just how difficult it was to share that news. Obviously, it wasn't our decision, which we'll get into, but to share that news with our current student athletes and coaches, because it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to have that taken away from them. And, I'll never forget kind of the looks on their faces and the emotion when we talked about what was happening and why, but they handled it, they handled it with a maturity beyond their years, which I was impressed with. The other thing that I, and Chris can talk about what he remembers from that week, but the other thing I think about is, when this all started to happen, you could see the pieces falling in place, and it was going to be, it was going to be the end of athletics competition for the spring in the NCAA. We acted pretty quickly on our campus, and I think we sort of beat the conference announcement by a couple of hours, which, looking back, I'm really proud of, because it gave us a chance, Chris and myself, to talk to the softball team, myself and the other coaches to talk to all of our spring teams in person, and they heard it from us. And that means a lot to me, knowing that there were certainly student athletes on other campuses who got that news from their phone, from Twitter or from a friend.
Yeah.
And as much as it hurt, and as much as it's a lousy memory to remember having to tell those student athletes that their season was over, I'm really, really happy that we got to do it in person and be with them and not have them learn that way. So that's a tiny silver lining in a rough week. I don't know what, Chris, I don't know what you remember from the week.
Yeah, it was a crazy week. I remember like that weekend we're playing in Virginia, and we're in the middle of a ball game, and I check my phone real quick, and I see there's like messages from Tom Mandato, who's he's my sports supervisor and works at the UMBC, and saying, hey, I need to talk to you. And so I got off that evening I called him. He's like, hey, we need to start preparing for this. This is kind of coming. We're kind of keeping ahead of it. I was like, man, this is getting real. And I talked to the team about it on Sunday after it's over, the adjustments we're looking to make, but we're pressing on. And it just seemed every day it was like more and more and more like the bricks are coming out of the building. And it just by Wednesday and Thursday, the writing was on the wall. And I give credit to Brian and the administration at UMBC. They did a great job of keeping us informed, and they did stay ahead of it. And that's one thing we were trying to do as a program to keep our athletes informed, was just trying to stay ahead of this thing as much as possible, so they feel like there's not, I mean, yes, there was a degree of uncertainty, but it wasn't just going to hit them right in the face, right there like it did with a lot of student athletes around the country. So, and that's a credit to Brian and his staff and everything to get ahead of it like they did. And but when we had to tell the team, though, I remember that morning we got done with the meeting with Brian very early that morning. I went straight down. The girls were in weights, getting, still working, still grinding, still think they had a season coming, had a portion of the season coming. We're getting ready to play some games at home finally for the weekend. And I went and watched them and sat there the whole time and like tried to keep a smile on my face, although I knew what we were going to have to tell them soon. And, to see their faces when Brian had to, talk to them and baseball at the same time, it was heartbreaking. It was. A lot of tears from the seniors, and knowing that their season, potentially their careers were over. And we got in our locker room afterwards, and a lot of people were hugging, they were crying, but after we just talked about it, and there was some frustration. Let me be honest, they're frustrated, didn't understand, and we talked about it and tried to break it down for them as best they could, because it was still new. There was no, like, everyone's like, what is this thing? And once we finally got to the point of like trying to explain, everybody calm down, they understood, and I supported the decision wholeheartedly in that moment in time with them. There was no backlash from us or from the program or coaching staff or anything. And I think we all, we still did the right thing. And, our girls understood it. And after time, the pain went away, and they started focusing on the future. And we're glad to be back to starting practice here soon, and getting ready to get back out on the field and get ready to send that championship.
Great. Thanks, Chris. Back to you really quickly, Brian. We've seen some other schools begin to cut sports due to the financial hit they've taken due to the pandemic. Is this something that's going to happen at UMBC? And how is the department dealing with the financial situation?
I'll say that I'll take the first part first. I mean, I think if you look at most of the schools that have eliminated programs in the last couple of months, it has been mostly elite academic private schools. And I think if you look at like Stanford, Dartmouth, Brown, and there was another one just recently in the last couple of days. If you look at a school like Stanford, for example, or Dartmouth, they cut 11 sports, and let's say that affects 200 student athletes that are now no longer going to be in the program. They've got 2,000 or 20,000 students waiting in line to take those 200 spots on campus. So, the athletic department can't say, hey, we're bringing tuition revenue into the school with those students, because there's other students waiting to full pay take their spots. At UMBC, I really see our programs as, we have one or two, I guess we have 3 out of our 17 sports that are really heavily scholarshiped, really, in terms of most of the athletes or all of the athletes having full scholarships. The rest, we're loaded with partial and non-scholarship student athletes, which is tuition revenue for the university. So if you cut or eliminate those sports and you don't replace those students, I don't care what you save on travel and equipment and coaches' salaries, it's a net loss for the school. And fortunately, I think our school understands that. What it all adds up to is we want to be part of the solution as we move forward out of this, and not part of the problem. It's really important that athletic departments are smart and efficient over the next few years, to sort of adjust the model that's been, I think it's been out of whack for probably a decade, maybe since the last economic correction. And so we have to be smart about that. We have to get better. But our student athletes represent enrollment for the university, and that's a positive any way you slice it. So, I don't, that's not on our radar screen at all. It's not something that would help our financial picture as I see it right now. So we're focused on different things in terms of getting better. And, Chris and I have talked about regionalizing scheduling more, trying to make our schedules just more cost efficient, which without downgrading the schedules, but just making them smarter and making sure we're playing the local schools every year, which is good for us in a lot of ways. So, we're going to look at things like that, but we're not looking at eliminating programs, because that might make the athletics department look better, but it wouldn't help the school overall.
And can you talk a little bit about what kind of changes are being made and the things that will be implemented in the fall and the spring due to the virus?
So I guess we're talking about health and safety things. So we have a tremendous, meticulous plan that was put together by our campus health officials, our department's athletic training staff and sports medicine staff, that we think really keeps our student athletes healthy and safe and able to participate during this time. And we're off to a really good start with it. We had testing when all the students came in. When all the student athletes came in, and our positive rate was lower than the positive rate of the school, which in itself was very low. I think the overall positivity rate on campus was less than 1%. It was about 0.7% of those tested. So that's really good vis-a-vis the general public. We've got quarantine and isolation protocols for those who do test positive. We've got a ton of precautionary measures being taken in athletics, including, we're doing workouts outside, socially distanced. Masks and social distancing in the training rooms. We're using a tent outside to do, we're doing symptom checking every day. We're doing, there's all these measures in place that we feel really confident are going to keep our student athletes safe. Now, the wild card is we're relying on our student athletes who are, 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds to follow all the rules. And so far, they've done a great job with it. But I think that's really the wild card more than anything we're doing in the department or on campus. It's, making sure that in those other however many hours there are in a day and night, that they're making good decisions. And like I said, to their credit, so far they are. I think our athletes really want to be back on the field, and they understand what's at stake. So Chris maybe can talk a little bit about what it looks like. I mean, I know softball is a little bit lower risk sport. We're able to get on the field and generally be socially distanced. So I know that your practices will probably look a lot more like a regular practice than, say soccer's right off the bat. But I don't know what you want to say about what you've seen, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't been able to get on the field just yet. Our plan is to start with weights and conditioning next week. But I mean, after talking with Stacy and Callie, who does a great job with us in our program, we put in a plan in place where, hey, we're making sure that they have their own group of balls and they're throwing them, their own group of balls to that person. They're dropping them, make sure we're not touching the same ball at least for a little while. And we're making sure we got protocols of wiping down bats, to making sure that even if we have multiple people playing the same position and trying to get, say, some grounders, having one person there taking an X amount and then the other person like 10, 20 feet away off to the side, and they socially distance switching and, anything from, same thing with BP. So we've got a great plan in place. And I know Stacy, and I just want to give credit to Stacy and the administration, just the tremendous amount of work that they did with campus to get us to this point right here where our student athletes can get back on the field. And I'll give credit to our student athletes too. Back in, it's hard to sometimes to say 18 to 22-year-olds want, they got to trust them to kind of, do the right thing all the time. But I really believe our student athletes, and I've talked to our team several times, and they've been, locked into, doing what they have to do to get back to practice, get on the field. So, it's a credit to all of our coaches, our administration, Stacy and her staff, and our student athletes for getting us to this point, and everyone getting back on the field to get rocking and rolling again.
And Coach, kind of going off of returning to campus, what's the current attitude of the team? How are they handling the new protocols for life and school and sport?
Well, it's definitely an adjustment. For sure right now. It's not especially for the newcomers, especially our freshmen who, are coming in for the first time away from home and everything, and they're kind of having to be a little more isolated in their rooms, maybe a little bit, and they don't have that extra person in their room and a suite mate like normal, and they're just not able to do their normal activities like they would normally do. But I mean, they're adjusting. We're in a phase now where we can, start socializing what they call our cohorts, and which are groups of 10 or less, and they're starting to be able to get out and, be able to interact with some other teammates and maybe throw the ball a little bit and, go hike, do some social distancing things, some activities to make sure that, they're staying safe, but be able to get out in nature or get outside and get some, breath of fresh air, or could go to a teammate's house that's inside their cohort and, watch a movie or have dinner. So they're adjusting it fine. They're at, it seems like there's a, something new coming here and there, and there, there's always question marks on what we can do this, can we do that, kind of thing from them. But, they've had a great attitude about it. They really have. I've had a weekly meeting with my seniors for the last several weeks, and we've had weekly meetings discussing stuff and other things with them, and they've had great attitudes about it. And I know the closer we get to weights and conditioning starting on Wednesday, and the closer we get to individuals and team practice starting later in the month, just the better and better their attitudes and just their prospects of what's going on right now are going to be, for sure.
And are there any specific things that you're doing to keep the girls focused and to keep mental health a top priority during this time?
Yeah, we've talked with our seniors to start doing things inside their cohorts to get them together, especially like this weekend and the long weekend, to get out and do some things with each other. Or we're actually putting together some virtual like Jeopardy nights or movie nights, or we'll all watch a movie together, or come up with some Jeopardy questions, or even like something a little bit different, like sports trivia night with the team and everything. Of course, around their class schedules, they're still going to class, maybe virtually, but they're still in class. Some of them still have late evening classes. Some go to 9 o'clock at night. But we're trying to do some little things, some programming here and there. Even when practice starts and they get to see each other a little bit more, they're still not really necessarily able to really go and get together as a big group all the time. So we're still going to try to do a lot of things from a virtual standpoint, to try to keep them active and keep their brains moving, so they're just not sitting in their dorms all the time and wasting away, but just be able to sit there and just think about why they're, they had that alone time in their room. So it makes them feel connected a lot more.
Yeah, and Liz, from a department standpoint, we've contracted with a mental health counselor to come in and do monthly, I think, sessions with our student athletes to just check up on them, give them a time to share some of the emotional stuff going on and the mental health issues going on, and hopefully identify any more serious issues that we can make sure we get them to the resources they need. So we're really trying to stay connected as a department too. And I know the creative stuff Chris is talking about is great. I know all of our coaches are doing similar activities just to try and stay connected and stay aware of what's going on with our student athletes. And then we're trying to do things as a department as well. So we'll do anything we can to help the student athletes get through this from an emotional and mental well-being standpoint.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to shift gears a little bit here. Brian, are there any plans in place to improve the softball facility now that the event center and the soccer improvements have been completed, and what other projects are in the works?
Yeah, we've got a couple different things going on. I mean, one, I don't know how public this is, but I'll talk about it anyway. We have a stadium improvement project that's kicking off right now, that we're in the planning stages of, but the funding's there. And over the next 2 years, there'll be, I think by the spring of 22, is it the spring of 22? Spring of 23? Yeah. The work should actually be done. And that's going to entail a couple of things. I mean, it's going to involve putting lights on the softball field, which we currently don't have, which is going to be a big plus in terms of scheduling, and flexibility and practice times and all of that. So one of the things you don't think about if you're outside the program, although if you're a softball alum, you probably remember this, is the flexibility to play at night and to practice at night certainly helps us with getting student athletes to class. So in normal times when we have class. But so that's going to be a really big plus. And then there's also going to be some improvements to the dugouts, and also just generally to the stadium complex so that it's a little bit more amenable to fans. So I think we're going to see some nice improvements there. And then Chris and I and Liam, our baseball coach, and I have talked about the need for down the road an indoor practice facility. I think that's a really critical need for those two programs. And frankly, probably for all of our programs. But I think in particular, baseball and softball need somewhere they can hit during the winter without leaving campus. So that's something that, that's in a different stage. We're more in the conceptual stage on that. We don't have, we've looked at some drawings and we've talked about some things. We don't have the funding for that yet. Although if anybody here would like to write a check, I'll give you my address. But that's something that I think would be a really nice next step for those two programs. The other thing, I know there's some issues with water damage at the fields and some issues around just the landscaping, and so all of those things are kind of incremental improvements that I'd like to get to in the next couple of years. I mean, I know COVID's kind of set us back a little bit on any kind of capital expenditures that weren't already in the pipeline, but those are certainly things that are on our radar. I think from a things you'll see first, it's the lights and the new dugouts and just some of the improvements to the fan amenities.
Great, thank you. Coach, how do you see your role as coach this year compared to previous years? And are there new tasks and new roles you've been forced to take on because of the pandemic? How has your approach changed, if it has at all?
I think one of the things that the pandemic has taught me is to be very thankful for everything we have at UMBC and our team and everything, and it's made me a better coach and a better communicator. Like I'm having to and learn technology for one thing, and learn how to do this and how to communicate over Zoom and WebEx and all these different platforms that I'd never even used before. So communicating with our girls through this help us stay connected with us, made me a better coach, made me learn how to try to communicate with them on a better and a little more personal level than we already were. We kind of pride ourselves as a program already being a very tight-knit family. We call ourselves our Ohana, which is Hawaiian for family. It's in part of our cheers at the end of the games or in the practice or anything like that. We call ourselves our Ohana, and we pride ourselves being a tight-knit community, inside of our program. But it's made me a better coach and learn how to communicate better, and I'm still, learning new ways to do that. But new roles on top of that. Like I think as a head coach, at a mid-major like UMBC or any mid-major, I take on the head courses of an instructor, a teacher, a father sometimes, or a big brother on campus, coordinator, our Zach Zidell, who's awesome doing that as well. But you come partner with him to do a lot of great things with that. Marketer, fundraiser, there's a lot of hats that we wear, and COVID's made me more aware of how important more of these resources are to our program and everything, and how I need to step up a little bit more at that. So I hated that we ended our season, but the pandemic has made me a better person, made me a better coach for sure.
Yeah, I think Liz, I think that's something that's happened across the department, and we've focused from the beginning of the pandemic on how can we use this time to get better? How can we use this time to get stronger and better? And one of the ways, and Chris touched on it, that I think I've seen us get better is the use of technology, the ability to use technologies like what we're using here in recruiting, in connecting with alumni, in a lot of different ways. And I don't think that's going to go away. I mean, I think our ability to get together with alumni without us all being in one physical place is a really great thing that's not going to change. And we'll be able to stay better connected that way. And we certainly use that to stay connected with alums all over the place without flying all over the country, which is great. And I think likewise for prospects who are considering UMBC, it's great that without lining up schedules and travel plans and all that, Chris can have a prospect meet with me, or meet with the sport administrator, or meet with the athletic trainers, or meet with the academic folks virtually in a way that everybody's comfortable with now, and really get to know each other before they make a decision to come, or maybe even before they make a decision to get on a plane and visit. And that's really a positive thing, and again, something that we'll build on as we move forward.
Aside from the COVID questions, the other big question of the night is, how does the team look this year, and are the Retrievers well positioned to defend their America East title?
That's what I'm talking about. That's what we want to talk about.
Yes, this is the fun question. So I love this question. I've been talking to recruits for the last several days, and this is one of the big topics that has come up in all those Zoom calls and all those phone calls I've had. So I'm excited to talk about this. I think we're looking great. We're healthy right now. The kids have come out of COVID. COVID seriously and came back in pretty good shape. Part of that I can tell from what they've been telling me a little bit here, a little bit there. We're excited to start next week with weights and conditioning with our new strength coach, Anthony Cockrell, who's just hired on to help with Brian Amenta, who did a fantastic job by himself through, the early part of the year and through COVID with all of our programs. We're excited to do that, but I think we're at a higher number than we've had in the last several years, and we have a lot of depth this year, and we had several excellent transfers come in. We got a lot of newcomers joining our returners. Of course, we got Courtney Coppersmith coming back. She'll be a junior this season. We have Anna Lonchar, you got Imani Dawson, and even Maddie Dainu, who was a fourth-year senior last year and decided to take advantage of the NCAA eligibility waiver and come back for a fifth year and finish out her career on a high note. And, I could talk about everybody on the field from Maddie Leach, Madison Oberg, tons of kids, Chanel Stott, Julia Kepler, Sierra Pierce. I can't stop talking about our kids, and they are all excited to be back. And we're healthy, we're ready, we're excited to go. And our kids know that, it's a long grind to get us to May to win that championship again. And I think they're ready and focused to do it because, especially, when the season got cut short, we were climbing, we're doing well, and then we kind of hit a little bump with some injuries. And then right at that weekend in Virginia Beach, right before the season got shut down, they could see the spark and saw that we kind of got healthy again, and we were getting back to that climb, back to where we would be getting ready for conference play. So we were well in position to defend our title last year, and I know we're in an even stronger position now to defend our title next year, which should be scary for the America East. And if anybody's on listening from the America East, we're coming for you guys. So we're ready for it.
Hey, I spoke to the team earlier this week on a Zoom call that Chris had, and Chris said the word spark. And, I mentioned on the call that, you're still the defending champs and now we're back on the field. And I was going to say the same thing. You could see the spark in their eyes. You could see the swagger.
Yeah.
That team's ready to go. So they're going to be fun to watch this year. And I have no doubt that you can hear Chris's swagger, and you can be sure the team's taking that on too, which is awesome.
There's one thing I have ample of is the confidence and swagger in my girls. That is for sure.
Okay, this next question is for both of you.
Okay.
How are you planning on handling alumni relations, and what can the alumni do to be more involved with the program? What do you need from the alumni to help elevate the team? Things like that.
Hey, let me jump on this one first, Chris, because this is true across the board at UMBC Athletics. So it is my number one priority above all else to make everybody, and this goes for our current student athletes when they graduate, as well as those of you who played in, our softball players who played in 1991 all the way through the present. When you leave this campus, I want you to feel like you're still part of the program, whether you're 25 years old or 45 years old or 85 years old. I want you to feel like you're part of the program, and you can walk back in that door and be at home, that you're a retriever for life. And that's just an absolute priority. If we do that, it means that we're doing our jobs right, because when people leave here, they miss it, and it's part of them. And, I always tell the coaches, and Chris probably remembers I told him this when I first met him, that if you're coaching a team here, and 5 years after you graduate, 6 years after students graduate, they're not inviting you to their weddings, you're doing something wrong, because you're not, you haven't been an important enough force in their lives. And, that's what we want. That's the kind of culture we want to build here. So when you ask what you can do to support, I'd say the first thing, if you're watching this, you're doing the first thing, which is staying in touch with us and participating. And, the second thing I'd say is, if you're watching this, pick up, get on Facebook or get on Twitter and share this with your teammates, whether they've been around the program or not. Let them know that this is there, and have them watch so they can get a handle on what's going on, and just know how welcome they are. And I hope that any of you who are in the area and are back, have a chance to come back for a game or come back for a visit, you see me at that softball field, please introduce yourself and say hello. And because I'd love to meet, all of you down the road. So that's one thing, is staying connected and feeling like part of the family. And the second thing, and we haven't talked about this publicly yet, Liz actually has done a lot of work on this so far. We're in the process of putting together a letter winners club, which is not, it's not going to cost you any money, but it's just a way for everybody who ever played a sport here at UMBC to continue to be part of our organization. So the idea is you just register for it. You get to be part of the letter winners club. We'll send you something as a token of your membership. but you'll stay connected with the program, and you'll be invited to, probably do special events around homecoming, and maybe another event during the year, and just try and formally keep you connected with UMBC athletics. So what I would say is right now, you're going to hear more about that in the near future, but right now the best thing you could do is share this with others and spread the word that this is the culture that we're trying to build, and particularly in softball, this is the kind of culture that we have and that you're part of it. Chris, I don't know if you have anything to add from the softball front.
Oh, no, absolutely. And that's been a big priority of mine since I gotten here. And I think last year we took a big step forward with it. It's trying to get the alumni, connected back to the program. When I went on my job interview at UMBC back in 2018, and talking to some alumni, after that, it's like they just felt disconnected from the university and felt disconnected from the program and the athletic department, and that was a shame. And I hated hearing that. I think any program, that doesn't matter if you're a baseball, softball, basketball, you're only as strong as your alumni base. You're only going to grow as much as your alumni base grows. And I think last year we took a big step forward with that. We had a great evening with a lot of alumni back in last October. We had about 25 alumni come back, which has been the most that the programs had come back for an alumni weekend in the fall in a long time. And we had another one planned this spring, and unfortunately COVID shut that down. But I think in the way things are going right now and the connectivity that we've had with them, I think things are definitely in a great step forward and a process going forward, going up the mountain, where we're going to have a great alumni base in our program soon. And if you're watching, you can share this with the alumni, and I try to share in our emails that I send them, keep them connected and keep them kind of apprised what's going on inside the program. So just keep sharing our vision and just keep talking to them. When you talk to me and you see things about our program, keep retweeting, keep liking and sharing, and share with share with those alumni who maybe not are connected right now, and give them my phone number. The alumni that came to our event last October have my phone number. They have my email. Just continue to contact me, and I want all alumni to feel like they are a part of the Retriever Softball Ohana still, and get connected. Because I would love for even our current student athletes to be almost like pen pals with the former student athletes, and then our student athletes now can be connected in a way to people that's inside the same industries and the majors that they want to go into, and continue to have like a sisterhood and a bond with them that that will continue to grow in the future even after they graduate. And of course, we love we would love financially for them to give back, and we would love to have the financial base of our program, from a fundraising standpoint, to love to be a big part of from our alumni, but that's not what we're really all about. That will continue to grow when they get connected more and all that. But one of these days I would love to see 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 former retrievers at our alumni events every year. We're going to have one. Unfortunately, we can't have one right now due to COVID and all that. But if we get back to swinging things, when we get back to the swinging things this spring, we're going to have another one again, and we're going to keep trying to have more and more, and keep trying to have programming to get more and more back every single year. So keep spreading the word, alumni. We want you back, and we want you to be connected, as much as you want to be.
Yeah, and those retweets and shares on social media mean so much. There's nobody who can help us get connected with former student athletes than their teammates and their captains and their friends. So, if you do see things, if you see something like this, or if you see a post from Chris, or an event that we're having, please share it among your former teammates that you're still in touch with, and help us get that word out there. That really helps.
Great. As Brian, as the new AD, what do you see the next 5 years looking like for UMBC athletics as a whole, and then for softball specifically? And do you have 2 or 3 goals that you would be able to share with us that you wish to achieve for the department in the next 5 or so years?
Yeah, I think the situation we're dealing with right now has made planning, years ahead feel like planning 2 weeks ahead feels difficult right now, as we all know. But in terms of the trajectory that we're on, I think we've experienced some really unprecedented success over the last 5-6 years in this department with some of the things that have happened, including the championship that Chris won and his team. And so those are things I talk about this all the time. I don't want those to be in a history book on the shelf, and we think about them, and we every once in a while go, oh, that was great when we won that championship. I want that to be chapter 1 of a long book of success. And so I think that's in terms of the athletic piece, it's taking each of those things and building on them, and taking a softball championship and turning it into 3 championships, turning it into a team that really dominates the conference and is a destination place for softball players at our level. So those kind of athletic goals, I think that can help us within the America East Conference. Certainly, I'd like to see us compete for the Commissioner's Cup in the conference. And I know there's reasons why it's difficult. We don't have every sport that America East play. I don't care. I want to move up those standings. So, and it means that we got to win games and we got to win championships. Off the field, Chris touched on this a little bit. One of my big goals for the department is to better connect our alumni network with our current student athletes, because I think it's everywhere I've been, it's been a point of pride, and it's been a really important thing in the department that we have a pipeline for student athletes to have careers. Because at the end of the day, at UMBC, virtually every single one of our student athletes is going to need their degree, and they're going to need a career in a field that's not their sport. Some of them are going to go on to be coaches. The rare few are going to go on and have some kind of professional career, which is awesome. But what we also want to do is make sure that the other 99% are set up for success in the world that they're going into. So, that's where alumni can really help us, is formally putting together programming to help transition student athletes from college to post-college life. That transition, as you know, if you're a student athlete alum, I think is harder for student athletes than it is for the general student population, because you spent so much of your time playing your sport and training for your sport and thinking about your sport. A lot of times you hear from student athletes at the end, well, man, I never had time to do an internship. I never had time to really prioritize my job search. And, what we always tell them is your work as a Division I athlete, that was an internship. You learned a level of accountability that other people don't get on campus. If you're a student athlete in a Division I school, you're not sleeping in until 11 o'clock in the morning. You're not skipping classes when you want to skip class. You're at practice, whether you're sick, healthy, tired, not tired. And that work ethic and that level of accountability and that level of, kind of ability to work within a team, every employer in the country wants that. And particularly coming from a place like UMBC, where you've come through an academically rigorous program, so we know you're ready to do the work. Our student athletes are in high demand, and it's incumbent on us to really try and connect them better with great career opportunities. And that's where you as alums can come in. We want to create that kind of programming, and we need alums to be part of it. So that's an area where certainly I have aspirations for our student athletes, and I think you can help us reach them.
And Chris, a similar question. What are your top 2 or 3 goals for the softball program specifically over the next 3 to 5 years?
Sure. I mean, first and foremost, I want our kids to get out of here with a great degree and graduate with a GPA from working with our academic center for success to working with chat meetings and just checking in with them all the time, and just constantly just reinforcing how important the academic piece is and how important that degree is to their future and everything. And I tell recruits this all the time, and I tell them this, like, your mom and dad want you to get that degree because they want you to have a better life than they did and make more money than they did, and just have a better life than they've ever imagined. And I think that's one of my big priorities for that, and on top of just getting to know them and their families personally all the time. But if you're talking about like getting this a little more specific, I mean, of course, we want to win every single championship we can get. Be one of the most competitive teams in the American East every single year, year in, year out. Out recruit our competitors, here regionally and nationally, and bring in the kids who are the right kids, who are talented, who can fit the UMBC academic rigor, since we're a big-time academic institution and honors college, and be able to get it done on and off the field. So we want to bring more of these championship rings back, give one to Brian if he wasn't here for the last one, and get another trophy, continue to put trophies in that trophy case. And after that, we want to get back and just represent our conference in the school and regionals, and try to have a shot at super regionals in the next few years as well. And and continue to build our brand across the nation. I think a story that I share a lot with recruits and everything is like, the win with Virginia from basketball definitely helped us. But when we won our championship and got in that Oklahoma game, and against Notre Dame the next day, and we got on TV in those primetime slots, I'm in an airport in Dallas, get connected to go out to California to recruit, and I have this hat on, no other UMBC gear on, and some lady comes on TV and like, oh, UMBC, we just watched it. Things like that are just amazing for, growth, for, things with growth of our program and for this university. So we just want to strive for excellence, whatever we do on and off the field. And we want, like I kind of alluded to, is just trying to continue to grow in the recruiting piece, keep recruiting, continue to grow in the classroom, and to continue to build our alumni base, like I said earlier. And those kind of just the pieces of the puzzle that we're really focusing on. On top of, continuing to work with Brian, like you said, about it's exciting, and we're getting lights and we're getting dugouts, at the field. And, we have those plans and, dreams of an indoor facility for us in baseball, but continue to do improvements over at the softball facility, like in, stands and backstops, and redoing all our bullpens and, batting cages and all that, stuff we need to get done in the future. And it's exciting. There's a lot of small term things that lead to long-term goals, and we're excited about it. And in alumni, the one thing that you can help us out with, if you ever want to come back and just like, hey, I can help out with a batting cage, I can help out with a bullpen, some financially, or get a group of alumni together. We can always talk, and would love to do that. Put your name on if we can, if we have to, and all this and all that. So, and that's where one of those pieces, that a very important piece where you guys can always help us out with. So those are kind of the things that we have coming for, maybe the next 3 or 5 years. But, our girls are excited and ready to, just going back to just the other thing about maybe not the 3 or 5 year vision. Our girls are just excited to be ready to go. And hopefully the alumni are just as excited to kind of, get back and see them as well next spring, and, be able to support them in person.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. In an effort to be respectful of time, I'm going to stop the questions at this point. I will hand it back over to the two of you if you have any final remarks.
No, like you said, I want to be respectful of folks' time, but I want to thank everybody who watched this and listened and joined us, and just reiterate how much it means to us to have you continue to be part of the community and part of the Retriever family. So thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in person some point in the near future.
Absolutely. No, and I want to give a shout out to everybody talking, joined in with us tonight, this alumni. I know maybe some recruits joined in who are watching, because I know I saw a lot of retweets on my Twitter today when I posted that we're having this today. So I just want to thank everybody participating, and alums, I just would love for you to just send this to other alums that may not, who may not have met me or have been disconnected from the program in a while. This will be something that you can watch again, or they can watch, and just continue to spread the word. And I also want to say hey to my daughter. She's watching on this right now. I don't know if my son is, because he has a friend over, and her and the cat are watching, because she keeps getting in the chat and saying hello and telling me what's going on.
That's great.
And this was exciting, and I would love to do this again.
And I would also like to echo what Brian and Chris said. Thank you all very much for joining us tonight. We very much appreciate your time. Like we have mentioned, a recording of this town hall will be available. We'll email it out and put it on social media for anyone to rewatch it, or for anyone who was unable to join us live tonight. And if anyone had any questions that we weren't able to get to, please feel free to reach out to any of us so that we can get those answered for you. And we hope to see everyone soon. Stay safe and healthy, and have a great long weekend coming up. Have a good night.
Go Dogs.